The moment I knew my marriage was over, I was elbow deep in a transmission, grease under my fingernails, and Nina was standing in the doorway of my garage wearing a dress that cost more than my monthly rent. "We need to talk about freedom," she said. "Not I love you, not how was your day. Freedom. I'm Jake Brennan, 42 years old, owner of Brennan's Auto Repair in this decaying Rust Belt city that forgot its glory days sometime around 1987. I fix cars. I box at Sammy's gym 3 nights a week to keep the demons quiet. I married Nina Chen 7 years ago when she was still slinging houses in the cheaper neighborhoods, and I thought love could bridge the gap between her ambitions and my grease-stained reality. I was wrong. Freedom, I repeated, wiping my hands on a rag that had seen cleaner days. That's an interesting word choice for a Tuesday afternoon. She shifted her weight, designer heels clicking on concrete. I'm serious, Jake. I've been thinking about what I want from life, what I deserve, what she deserved. There it was, the entitled language that had been creeping into our conversations for the past 6 months, ever since her cousin Derek moved to town. Derek Chen, 35 years old, all flash and no substance, selling luxury experiences and lifestyle coaching to bored housewives with too much money and too little sense. He drove a Mercedes he couldn't actually afford, wore suits that screamed, "Look at me," and had the kind of smile that made me want to check my wallet after every conversation. Nina had been different before Derek. Hungry, sure, but real. We'd met at a charity boxing match where I was fighting and she was working the crowd, trying to sell condos to anyone with a pulse. She'd loved my rough edges then, called me authentic, said I was refreshingly honest in a world of phonies. Funny how authenticity loses its charm when your cousin shows up driving a car worth more than your husband's annual income. What brought this on? I asked, though I already knew. I'd been watching the signs for weeks, the late nights at networking events, the phone she suddenly password protected, the way she flinched when I touched her, like my working-class hands might leave marks on her designer clothes. Derek's been helping me think about my potential, she said, about what I could achieve if I wasn't held back by... By what? By me. She had the decency to look away. By circumstances. By obligations that don't serve my growth, I laughed. Couldn't help it. Your growth? Jesus, Nina, you sound like one of Derek's Instagram posts. Her eyes flashed. Don't mock him. Derek's built an empire from nothing. He understands ambition. He understands that sometimes you have to make hard choices to become who you're meant to be. An empire, I said flatly. He sells overpriced seminars to desperate people and leases cars he can't afford. That's not an empire. That's a con job with good marketing. You're jealous. I'm realistic. There's a difference. She crossed her arms. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're so negative, Jake. So small-minded. You don't dream anymore. You just exist. Working on cars, throwing punches at a gym, drinking beer with Sammy, and pretending that's a life. Each word was a calculated strike. She'd been practicing this speech, I realized. Probably with Derek. Maybe in his overpriced loft apartment downtown, the one with the view of the river and the monthly rent that would make a sane person weep. I like my life, I said quietly. I like fixing things that are broken. I like the guys at the gym. I like coming home to my wife, or I did when she still liked coming home to me. That's the problem, Nina said. You're satisfied with so little. I need more. More what? More money, more status, more Derek whispering in your ear about your potential? She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it. The decision was already made. This wasn't a conversation. It was a notification. I want a divorce, she said. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. I should have been surprised. Should have felt something crack inside my chest. Instead, I just felt tired. When did you decide this? Does it matter? It matters to me. She sighed, the kind of theatrical sigh she'd probably learned from Derek's motivational videos. I've been unhappy for a while, Jake. We want different things. We're different people now than when we met. You're different, I corrected. I'm exactly who I've always been. Exactly, she said, like that proved her point. I've grown. You've stayed the same. I wanted to argue, wanted to point out that growth wasn't the same as abandoning everything you claimed to value. That ambition without integrity was just greed with better PR, but what was the point? She'd already made up her mind, probably weeks ago. probably in Derek's apartment while he fed her lines about deserving better and reaching for the stars and whatever other garbage he peddled to justify his own shallow existence. Fine, I said. You want a divorce, we'll get a divorce. But we do this fair, Nina. We split everything down the middle. She smiled then. It wasn't a nice smile. Actually, Derek's connected me with an excellent attorney. We've already started the paperwork. And there it was. The real reason for this garage visit. She'd already moved forward, already planned her exit strategy. This wasn't a conversation. It was an ambush. You've been planning this, I said slowly. With Derek. Derek's been very supportive. I bet he has. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and something in her expression softened in a way it hadn't for me in months. I have to go. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the house and the assets. Assets, I repeated. We have a 12-year-old Civic in a garage that barely breaks even. What assets? The house is worth $300,000, Jake. The garage property is worth even more. Don't play poor with me. She was right about the property values. The neighborhood was gentrifying, which meant my garage, inherited from my father, paid off, sitting on a prime corner lot, was suddenly worth real money. Money Nina had clearly been calculating. I'm not signing anything without my own lawyer, I said. That's your right. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Jake, I did love you. Once, when you seemed like you had potential. And now? Now you're just a mechanic who never wanted more. She left. The click of her heels faded. I stood in my garage, surrounded by broken cars and the ghost of a marriage I'd apparently been too stupid to save. If love is a battlefield, I'd just been hit by friendly fire. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment everything changed. The moment I stopped being Jake Brennan, the nice guy who fixed cars and loved his wife and tried to do right by everyone. That guy was dead. What came next was something different, something harder, something that would make Nina Chen regret the day she decided I was too small for her dreams. I didn't go home that night. Couldn't face the house we'd bought together, the bedroom where she'd probably been planning her exit for months while I slept beside her like an idiot. Instead, I went to Sammy's gym. Sammy Rodriguez. Yeah, I know. The name sounds like it belongs in a bad movie, but that's what his mother christened him, and that's what stuck. Ran the gym out of a converted warehouse near the docks. 68 years old, former middleweight contender with hands like catcher's mitts and a face that had stopped more punches than a brick wall. He took one look at me and pointed at the heavy bag. Whatever it is, hit it out. I hit that bag for 2 hours straight, hit it until my knuckles bled through the wraps, until my shoulders screamed, until the rage and humiliation and bone-deep betrayal had somewhere to go besides eating me alive from the inside. When I finally stopped, Sammy handed me a towel and a bottle of water. Woman trouble? Is there any other kind? He laughed, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. Your wife? Soon-to-be ex-wife. She'd cheat? I hadn't said it out loud yet, hadn't let myself think it in clear terms. But Sammy's blunt question cut through all the denial and rationalization. I think so. Her cousin, guy named Derek Chen? Sammy's expression darkened. I know Derek. Comes in here sometimes trying to sell his motivational garbage to my fighters. Tells them they can manifest success and align their energy. I told him to manifest his buttocks out of my gym before I aligned his face with my fist. Despite everything, I smiled. That's Derek. So what are you going to do? I don't know yet. You want my advice? Do I have a choice? No. Sammy sat down on the bench, gestured for me to join him. I've been married 3 times, kid. First wife left me for a lawyer. Second wife left me for a doctor. Third wife died, God rest her soul. And she was the only one worth keeping. That's depressing, Sammy. That's life. Point is, the first 2 times I let them walk all over me, let them take what they wanted, tell their stories, paint me as the bad guy. Know what I got? Nothing. Not money, not respect, not even the satisfaction of standing up for myself. What are you saying? I'm saying if your wife wants a war, give her a war. But fight smart. Fight dirty if you have to. Just don't fight fair because I guarantee she's not. I thought about Nina's smile when she mentioned Derek's lawyer, the way she'd already started paperwork without telling me. The calculated cruelty of coming to my garage to deliver the news like she was canceling a subscription service. I'm not sure I know how to fight dirty, I admitted. Sammy grinned. Then it's time you learned. Over the next week, I learned a lot. First, I learned that Nina had indeed been planning this for months. She'd opened a separate bank account, something I discovered when I tried to pay our mortgage and found our joint account had been systematically drained. Not emptied completely, which would have been obvious, but slowly siphoned over 3 months. 2,000 here, 1,500 there, always just under the amount that would trigger my attention. She'd been smart about it, or Derek had been smart about it, which was more likely. Second, I learned that Derek Chen's empire was built on credit card debt and other people's money. A little digging, a lot of digging, helped by my buddy Tommy, who worked at the DMV and owed me for fixing his transmission, revealed that Derek's Mercedes was leased, his loft apartment was 2 months behind on rent, and his lifestyle coaching business was registered to a P.O. box and had never filed a tax return. The guy was a fraud. A good-looking, smooth-talking fraud, but a fraud nonetheless. Third, I learned that Nina had been seen with Derek at the Riverside Motel on 3 separate occasions. This information came courtesy of Mrs. Patterson, my 72-year-old neighbor, who had nothing better to do than watch the neighborhood with the intensity of a CIA operative. I didn't want to say anything before, Mrs. Patterson told me over coffee in her kitchen, surrounded by enough ceramic cats to stock a gift shop. But since you're getting divorced anyway, you should know. That cousin of hers? They're not acting like cousins, if you know what I mean. I knew what she meant. When did you see them? First time was about 2 months ago, Thursday afternoon. I remember because it was trash day, and I was taking out the recycling when they drove past in his fancy car. They didn't see me, but I saw them, saw the way she was looking at him. And the other times? 3 weeks ago, same motel, and then again last week. Always Thursday afternoons. Always the same room, I'd bet. Number 7, around the side where you can't see from the street. I thanked Mrs. Patterson and left before she could offer me more coffee and sympathy. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted evidence. Thursday afternoon, I was parked across from the Riverside Motel in my work truck, the one with Brennan's Auto Repair painted on the side. Not exactly covert surveillance, but Derek and Nina weren't expecting to be watched. People rarely do when they're convinced they're smarter than everyone else. They showed up at 2:15. Derek's Mercedes, Nina in the passenger seat, both of them laughing about something. They went to room 7, just like Mrs. Patterson had said. I took pictures with my phone. Not great quality, but good enough to show who was there and when. Then I waited. 45 minutes later, they came out. Nina's hair was different, messier. Derek's shirt was untucked. They kissed before getting in the car, the kind of kiss that left no doubt about what had happened in that room. More pictures. I followed them back to Derek's apartment building, watched them go inside together, watched the lights come on in his 5th-floor loft. I sat in my truck until dark, thinking about Sammy's advice, about fighting smart, about fighting dirty, about revenge. "You're sure about this?" Tommy asked, leaning against his car in the DMV parking lot. "Because once you start down this road, man, there's no going back." Tommy Walsh. We'd grown up together in the city, back when it still had factories and hope. He'd gone into government work, I'd gone into auto repair, but we'd stayed friends through marriages and divorces and all the general chaos of adult life. "I'm sure," I said. "She wants to play games. We'll play games. But I need information first." "What kind of information?" "Everything you can get me on Derek Chen. Financial records, traffic violations, property records, anything that shows what he really is." Tommy whistled low. "That's borderline illegal, Jake." "Borderline isn't over the line. It's close enough to see the line from there. Can you do it or not?" He thought about it, then nodded slowly. "Give me a week. But you didn't get this from me, understand? My job's on the line here." "I understand. And Tommy, thank you. Don't thank me yet. You might not like what I find." He was wrong. I loved what he found. A week later, Tommy handed me a folder thick with documents. We met at Mulligan's, the dive bar near the docks where nobody asked questions and everybody minded their own business. "Derek Chen is a disaster," Tommy said, sliding the folder across the beer-stained table. "I mean, a complete financial train wreck. The guy's got $17,000 in credit card debt, 3 outstanding loans he's defaulting on, and he's been sued twice by former clients who claim he took their money for business coaching and delivered nothing." I flipped through the papers. It was even better than I'd hoped. "There's more," Tommy continued. "His car? Leased through a company that specializes in helping people with bad credit look successful. He's 3 payments behind. His apartment? He's being evicted. The landlord filed papers last week. And get this, he's not actually Nina's cousin." I looked up. "What?" "I pulled family records. Derek Chen and Nina Chen aren't related, not even distantly. They just have the same last name. The implications hit me like a punch to the gut. She lied. Looks like it. My guess? They met somewhere, started the affair, and she introduced him as her cousin so you wouldn't be suspicious. I sat back, processing this new information. Nina hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been planning it. Lying about Derek's identity, setting up the affair, manipulating me from the start. There's one more thing, Tommy said. Derek's real name isn't Derek Chen. It's Derek Winters. He changed it legally 5 years ago. I can't find out why, but usually when people change their names, they're running from something. Can you find out what? I can try. But Jake, whatever you're planning, be careful. These people are liars and manipulators. They're not going to go down easy. Neither am I said. My next stop was Linda Martinez's office. Linda was a divorce attorney with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. She'd handled my buddy Steve's divorce 3 years ago and had eviscerated his ex-wife so thoroughly that Steve ended up with the house, the car, and full custody of their dog. Her office was in a converted brownstone downtown, all dark wood and leather chairs and walls covered with framed law degrees and bar certifications. "Mr. Brennan," she said, shaking my hand with a grip that could crack walnuts. "Tommy Walsh called ahead. Said you need help with a difficult divorce." That's one way to put it. I laid out the situation. The affair, the drained bank account, the lies about Derek's identity, the evidence I'd gathered. Linda listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Your wife made several critical mistakes," she said. "First, she drained joint assets without your knowledge or consent. That's a big no-no in divorce proceedings. Second, she committed cheating, which in this state still matters for asset division. Third, she lied about her relationship with Derek, which speaks to character and credibility. So I have a case? Mr. Brennan, you don't have a case. You have a nuclear weapon. By the time I'm done, your wife will be lucky to walk away with her car and her clothes. What about Derek? What about him? Can we go after him too? Legally?" Linda's smile widened. "If he's been advising your wife to hide assets or drain accounts, he could be liable for something called tortious interference with marriage. It's a long shot, but with the evidence you have, we might be able to make his life very uncomfortable." "I want more than uncomfortable," I said. "I want him destroyed." "Then we'll destroy him. But it's going to cost you." "How much?" $5,000 retainer. Another 5 when we go to court. Worth every penny if you want to win." I thought about the money I'd saved, the nest egg I'd been building for years. Thought about Nina draining our accounts to fund her new life with Derek. Thought about the satisfaction of watching them both fall. "You've got a deal," I said. The first blow came 2 weeks later. Linda filed divorce papers that included a full accounting of the drained joint accounts, documentation of Nina's affair, and a motion to freeze all remaining assets until the case was settled. She also filed a separate civil suit against Derek for tortious interference, demanding $50,000 in damages. Nina's response was immediate and panicked. She showed up at my garage on a Tuesday morning, her designer composure cracked around the edges. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded. I was under a Honda Civic, replacing brake pads. I took my time sliding out, wiping my hands, looking at her. "I'm getting a divorce. You wanted freedom, remember? You're suing Derek. You're trying to take everything. I'm trying to get what's fair. There's a difference." "Fair?" She laughed, high and sharp. "You call suing Derek for $50,000 fair?" I noticed she'd almost said my boyfriend, but caught herself. Too late. I'd noticed. "Your lawyer thought it was fair," I said. "In fact, she thought we should ask for more, but I'm a reasonable guy." "You're being vindictive." "I'm being smart. Something you and Derek should have tried." Her face flushed. "Derek didn't do anything wrong. Derek helped you drain our joint accounts. Derek advised you to hide assets. Derek committed fraud by claiming to be your cousin when he's actually your lover. Want me to keep going?" "You can't prove any of that." I pulled out my phone, showed her the photos from the Riverside Motel. "Can I?" The color drained from her face. "You followed me. You stole from me. I'd say we're even. This is harassment. This is evidence, and my lawyer says it's going to look really bad for you in court, especially when we bring up the fact that Derek isn't actually your cousin, that you lied about your relationship from the start, and that you've been planning this divorce for months while systematically stealing from our joint accounts." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You're not this person, Jake. You're not mean." "You're right," I said. I wasn't. But you know what? You changed me. You and Derek, you wanted me to dream bigger? Congratulations. Now I'm dreaming about watching you lose everything. I'll fight you on this. Please do. My lawyer loves a good fight. And between your affair, your lies, and your financial manipulation, she's got enough ammunition to bury you. Nina's hands were shaking. I loved you. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me. The fixer-upper husband you could renovate into someone worthy of your ambition. But I'm not a house, Nina. I'm a person. And you don't get to gut me and rebuild me to your specifications. Derek was right about you, she said, voice cold. You're small. You'll always be small. Maybe. But at least I'm honest. Can you say the same? She left without another word. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Power. The second blow came from an unexpected direction. I'd been friends with Marcus Webb and his wife, Jennifer, for 5 years. We'd met through Nina. Marcus was in real estate, too, and Jennifer worked in marketing. We'd done dinners, game nights, weekend barbecues. They were our couple friends, the ones you think you'll know forever. 3 days after my confrontation with Nina, Marcus called. Jake, we need to talk. His voice was tight, uncomfortable. I knew what was coming before he said it. Let me guess, I said. Nina got to you. Silence. Then, she's really upset, man. Says you're being unreasonable about the divorce. Unreasonable. That's the word she used. She says you're trying to take everything, that you're suing Derek for no reason, that you're making this way harder than it needs to be. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Did she mention the affair, the drained bank accounts, the lies? She said you two grew apart, that's all. That's all. Right. And Derek? She said he's just a friend who's been helping her through a difficult time. Marcus, I have pictures of them at a motel. I have bank records showing she stole $30,000 from our joint accounts. I have proof Derek isn't even her cousin, that she's been lying about their relationship from day one. You really want to take her side on this? Another long silence. Then, Jennifer and I talked about it. We think it's better if we stay neutral. We don't want to be in the middle of this. Neutral, I repeated. You mean you're choosing her? We're not choosing anyone, Jake. You're choosing her. Because she's successful and I'm just a mechanic. Because she's got the right friends and the right connections and I've got grease under my fingernails. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Marcus. But you know what? I don't need friends who can't tell the difference between growing apart and being betrayed. So you and Jennifer stay neutral. Stay out of it. And when Nina's lies catch up with her, don't come crying to me about how you didn't know. I hung up before he could respond. Over the next week, 3 more couples from our social circle called with variations on the same message. They were staying neutral. They didn't want to take sides. They hoped I understood. I understood perfectly. Nina had gotten to them first, told her version of the story, painted me as the bitter ex-husband who couldn't let go. And they'd believed her because she was charming and successful, and I was just the guy who fixed their cars when they broke down. It hurt more than I expected. Not because I needed them. I'd never been great at the whole social circle thing anyway. But because it proved something I'd always suspected. Most friendships are conditional. Most people will choose the side that benefits them most, truth be damned. But there was one exception. Ray Brennan showed up at my garage on a Thursday afternoon, driving the same beat-up Ford pickup he'd had since high school. My brother, 3 years older, 6 inches taller, twice as stubborn. We'd been estranged for the better part of a decade, ever since I'd loaned him money for a business venture that went belly up, and he'd taken 5 years to pay me back. Heard you were having trouble, he said, climbing out of the truck. News travels fast. Small city, smaller when you're a Brennan. He looked around the garage. Place looks good. It's a living. Better than I'm doing. Lost my job last month. Construction dried up. I studied him. Ray looked tired, older than his 45 years. But there was something in his eyes I recognized. The Brennan stubbornness, the refusal to stay down when life knocked you flat. What are you doing here, Ray? Heard your wife's screwing you over. Heard you lost some friends over it. Figured you could use family. We're not exactly close. No, we're not. But we're brothers. And Mom didn't raise us to let family fight alone. He stuck out his hand. So, what do you need? I looked at his hand, thought about all the years of silence and resentment, thought about Marcus and Jennifer and all the other fair-weather friends who'd abandoned ship at the first sign of trouble. Then I shook his hand. I need help destroying my wife's boyfriend, I said. Ray grinned. Now you're talking my language. Derek Chen's world started crumbling on a Monday morning. It started with his car, the leased Mercedes he couldn't afford, parked in its reserved spot at his apartment building. Someone, and I'm not saying who, but Ray had very specific skills when it came to creative vandalism, had sugar in the gas tank, 4 slashed tires, and a missing hood ornament. The tow truck showed up at 9 a.m. Derek came running out in his bathrobe, screaming about vandalism and calling the police. The police came, took a report, and told him there wasn't much they could do without witnesses or security footage. The building's security cameras had mysteriously malfunctioned the night before. Ray was very good at his job. That same day, Derek's landlord served him with formal eviction papers. Not just a notice, actual eviction papers, requiring him to vacate within 30 days or face legal action. How did the landlord suddenly get motivated to follow through? Well, someone might have anonymously sent him copies of Derek's bounced rent checks, his outstanding debts, and a helpful note suggesting that a tenant facing a $50,000 lawsuit probably wasn't a good credit risk. I'm not saying it was me, but it definitely wasn't not me. The third blow came from Derek's business. His lifestyle coaching empire, such as it was, depended heavily on social media presence and online reviews. Derek had cultivated a carefully crafted image: successful entrepreneur, motivational speaker, life coach to the ambitious. That image took a hit when several of his former clients started posting negative reviews. Reviews detailing how Derek had taken their money, promised results, and delivered nothing. How he'd pressured them into buying expensive, premium coaching packages that consisted of generic advice and recycled motivational quotes. Some of those reviews were genuine. Tommy had tracked down 3 former clients who were happy to share their experiences. Some were creatively enhanced. Ray turned out to have a real talent for writing scathing online reviews that sounded authentic. Within a week, Derek's 5-star rating had dropped to 2.3 stars. His website traffic plummeted. His upcoming seminar, Unlock Your Millionaire Mindset, had exactly 4 registered attendees. Nina called me 6 times that week. I didn't answer. Let her stew. Let her watch Derek's carefully constructed facade crumble and wonder if she'd bet on the wrong horse. The confrontation came on Friday night. I was at Mulligan's having a beer with Sammy and Ray when Derek walked in. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, eyes red from lack of sleep. He spotted me immediately and stormed over. "You!" he said, jabbing a finger at my chest. "You're destroying my life!" "I'm drinking a beer," I said calmly. "You're the one destroying your life. I'm just helping it along. My car, my apartment, my business, that's all you." "Prove it." He grabbed my shirt. Bad move. Sammy and Ray both stood up, and Derek suddenly realized he was outnumbered by 3 guys who'd all spent time in boxing rings. "Let go," I said quietly, "or this gets ugly." He let go, but didn't back down. "You're suing me for $50,000 I don't have. You're spreading lies about my business. I'm telling the truth about your business," I corrected. "Big difference. You took people's money and gave them nothing. You helped my wife steal from me. You lied about being her cousin so I wouldn't suspect the affair. Every single thing that's happening to you, you earned it. Nina loves me. Nina loves your car and your apartment and your fake successful lifestyle. Now that those are gone, let's see how much she loves you." Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt. "She's not like that," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Sure she is. She's exactly like that. She left me because I wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't climbing the ladder fast enough. You think she's going to stick around now that you're broke and facing a lawsuit? Please. Nina doesn't love people. She loves what they can do for her." "You're wrong." "Am I? When's the last time she offered to help with your rent, your car, your legal bills? When's the last time she did anything for you that didn't benefit her?" He didn't answer. Couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to lose your apartment. Your car's already gone. Your business is circling the drain. And when Nina realizes you're not the successful entrepreneur she thought you were, she's going to drop you like a bad investment. You'll be alone, broke, and facing a lawsuit you can't afford to fight. Unless you give me what I want, which is testimony in court about how Nina asked you to help her hide assets, how she planned the divorce, how she lied about your relationship. You give me that, I'll drop the lawsuit." Derek's face went pale. "She'll end me. She'll leave you anyway. At least this way you don't end up owing me 50 grand. He looked at Sammy and Ray, then back at me. I need to think about it. You've got 48 hours. After that, the offer expires, and you get to explain to a judge why you helped my wife commit fraud. He left without another word. Sammy clapped me on the shoulder. Cold, he said approvingly. Real cold. I learned from the best, I said. Derek called me 36 hours later. I'll testify, he said. But I want it in writing that you're dropping the lawsuit. Done. My lawyer will send over the paperwork. Nina's going to hate me. Nina's going to hate you anyway. At least this way you don't go bankrupt. He hung up. I sat in my garage, surrounded by broken cars and the pieces of my broken marriage, and smiled. Checkmate. The divorce hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late September. The courthouse was one of those old municipal buildings that smelled like floor wax and broken dreams. All marble floors and high ceilings, and the kind of institutional lighting that made everyone look guilty. Nina showed up with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Hoffman, who had a reputation for eating opposing counsel for breakfast. Nina wore a conservative blue suit, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. The picture of a wronged wife seeking a fair settlement. I showed up with Linda Martinez and a briefcase full of evidence. Derek showed up with a subpoena and a guilty conscience. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Barbara Thornton, with steel gray hair and the expression of someone who'd heard every lie and excuse in the book. She didn't suffer fools, and she didn't waste time. Let's get started, she said. Mrs. Chen, your petition claims irreconcilable differences and seeks an equal division of marital assets. Mr. Brennan, you're contesting this. Miss Martinez, present your case. Linda stood up. Your Honor, this isn't a case of irreconcilable differences. This is a case of cheating, fraud, and financial manipulation. We have extensive evidence that Mrs. Chen conducted a long-term affair with Derek Winters, systematically drained joint marital accounts, and lied to her husband about the nature of her relationship with Mr. Winters. Patricia Hoffman stood. Your Honor, my client admits that the marriage had problems, but... Your client admits to the affair? Judge Thornton interrupted. Patricia hesitated. My client acknowledges that she developed feelings for someone else, but that's a yes, the judge said. Continue, Miss Martinez. Linda presented the bank statements showing $30,000 withdrawn from joint accounts over 3 months. She presented the photos from the Riverside Motel. She presented Mrs. Patterson's testimony about seeing Nina and Derek together repeatedly. Then she called Derek to the stand. He looked miserable, avoided Nina's eyes as he was sworn in. Mr. Winters, Linda said, how long have you known Nina Chen? About 8 months. And what is your relationship to her? We're involved, romantically. When did this relationship begin? About 6 months ago. And did Mrs. Chen tell you she was married? Yes. Did she discuss her plans to divorce her husband with you? Derek glanced at Nina. She was staring at him with an expression that could melt steel. Yes, he said quietly. Did she ask for your help in preparing for this divorce? Yes. What kind of help? She asked me about hiding assets, about moving money out of joint accounts, about making sure she got as much as possible in the settlement. The courtroom went silent. Nina's face had gone white. Patricia Hoffman looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. And did you provide this help? Linda asked. I gave her advice, yes. What kind of advice? I told her to move money slowly so her husband wouldn't notice. I told her to document everything that made him look bad. I told her to get a good lawyer and play the sufferer. Did you tell her to lie about your relationship? She came up with that herself, said it would be easier if her husband thought I was her cousin. Linda smiled. No further questions. Patricia Hoffman tried to salvage things on cross-examination, but the damage was done. Derek had confirmed everything. The affair, the financial manipulation, the lies. When it was my turn to testify, I kept it simple. Told the truth about discovering the affair, about the drained accounts, about Nina's betrayal. Didn't embellish, didn't exaggerate, didn't need to. Judge Thornton called a recess to review the evidence. We waited in the hallway. Nina and Patricia huddled in one corner. Derek sat alone on a bench, looking like he wanted to disappear. Ray and Sammy had come for moral support. They flanked me like bodyguards. You did good in there, Ray said. It's not over yet. It's over, Sammy said. That judge knows exactly what happened. Your wife's going to get destroyed. He was right. When we reconvened, Judge Thornton didn't waste time. I've reviewed the evidence and testimony, she said. Mrs. Chen, I find your conduct during this marriage to be reprehensible. You conducted an affair, lied to your husband, and systematically stole marital assets to fund your new relationship. This court does not reward that kind of behavior. Nina's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client. Sit down, Miss Hoffman, I'm not finished. Judge Thornton looked at Nina. Mrs. Chen, you will return every penny you withdrew from joint accounts. The marital home will be sold and proceeds divided, but Mr. Brennan will receive 70% to compensate for your financial misconduct. The garage property will remain solely with Mr. Brennan, as it was his inheritance and you have no claim to it. You will also be responsible for your own legal fees. Do you understand? Nina looked like she'd been slapped. Your Honor, that's not fair. Fair? Judge Thornton's voice could have cut glass. You stole from your husband, committed cheating, and lied under oath. Yes, Miss Hoffman, your client lied in her initial filings, and I don't appreciate it. You're lucky I'm not holding you in contempt. This is my ruling. If you want to appeal, be my guest, but I guarantee you won't get a better deal. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Nina tried to approach me. Patricia Hoffman grabbed her arm, shook her head. Smart lawyer. Derek had disappeared, probably trying to figure out how to rebuild his life after burning every bridge. 70%, Ray said, grinning. Not bad, little brother. It's not about the money, I said. The hell it's not, Sammy said. It's always about the money. But it's also about respect. About not letting people walk all over you. You stood up for yourself, kid. Your old man would be proud. My father. Dead 10 years now, but I could still hear his voice. A Brennan doesn't back down. A Brennan fights. I'd fought, and I'd won, but I wasn't done yet. The block party happened 3 weeks later. Our neighborhood had an annual end-of-summer celebration. Grills in the street, kids running around, everyone pretending we were all friends instead of strangers who happened to live near each other. I'd skipped it the last few years, but this year I had a reason to attend. Nina was still living in the house until it sold. She'd been avoiding me, avoiding everyone, hiding behind closed curtains and ignored phone calls. But the block party was mandatory if you lived on the street. Neighborhood association rules. I showed up at 6 p.m. with Ray and Sammy in tow. Brought a case of beer and a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Nina was there, standing with a few neighbors who didn't know the full story yet. She saw me and her expression went cold. Jake, she said, I didn't think you'd come. Wouldn't miss it. We don't have anything to say to each other. I disagree. I think we have a lot to say. And I think everyone here deserves to hear it. Her eyes widened. Don't what? Don't tell the truth? Isn't that what you wanted? Freedom, honesty, living your authentic life? A crowd was gathering. Mrs. Patterson, always hungry for drama. The Johnsons from 2 houses down. The Millers, the Rodriguezes, all the neighbors who'd watched our marriage from a distance and wondered what went wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, raising my voice, I want to tell you a story about freedom. Jake, stop, Nina said, about a woman who wanted more than her husband could give her, who wanted success and status and a bigger life. Nothing wrong with that, right? Ambition is good. Ambition is American. People were listening now. Ray and Sammy had positioned themselves to block Nina's escape routes. Not threatening, just present. But here's where it gets interesting, I continued. This woman, she didn't just leave her husband. She stole from him. $30,000 moved slowly out of joint accounts while he worked 60-hour weeks to pay their bills. She lied to him, told him her lover was her cousin so he wouldn't suspect the affair. She planned her exit for months, consulting lawyers and hiding assets and setting up her new life while pretending everything was fine. Nina's face was scarlet. You're making me sound like a monster. I'm making you sound like what you are, a liar and a thief. And you know what the best part is? The guy you left me for? Derek, he's broke, evicted. His business is dead. His car's been repossessed. He testified against you in court to save his own skin. So all that freedom you wanted, all that success and ambition, you traded a good man for a con artist, and now you've got nothing. I have my career, she said, voice shaking. Do you? Because I heard your boss fired you after the divorce hearing. Something about not wanting an employee who commits fraud. Funny how that works. This was a lie. Nina's boss hadn't fired her, yet. But the look on her face told me she knew it was coming. You're a coward, she whispered. No, I'm a mechanic. I fix things. And when things can't be fixed, I make sure everyone knows they're broken. I turned to the crowd. So here's the lesson, folks. When someone tells you they want freedom, Ask them what they're willing to pay for it, because freedom isn't free. It costs, and sometimes the price is everything. I walked away. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting, the questions, the judgment. Nina's reputation in this neighborhood, hell, in this city, was finished. Ray caught up with me at the corner. That was harsh, man. She earned it. I'm not arguing, just saying, you went for the throat. She went for mine first. I just finished the job. Sammy was waiting at my truck. Feel better? Not yet, I said. But I will. The house sold 2 weeks later. I got my 70%, $210,000. Added to the money Nina had to return from the joint accounts, I walked away with almost $250,000. I used it to expand the garage, hire 2 new mechanics, and buy the building next door. Brennan's Auto Repair became Brennan's Auto Center. Full service, bodywork, detailing, the works. Ray came to work for me. Turned out he was pretty good with cars when he wasn't drinking away his problems. We didn't talk about the lost years, didn't need to. We were brothers. That was enough. Derek disappeared. Last I heard, he'd moved to another city to start over. Good luck to him. He'd need it. Nina tried to rebuild her career, but the divorce had done too much damage. The real estate world is small, and word spreads fast. She ended up moving to Florida, starting over where nobody knew her story. I didn't feel bad about it, didn't feel guilty. She made her choices. I just made sure she paid for them. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was at Sammy's gym when a woman walked in. She was about my age, athletic build, wearing workout clothes and a determined expression. She walked straight to Sammy. I want to learn to box, she said. Sammy looked her over. Why? Because my ex-husband was an abusive piece of garbage and I want to make sure I can defend myself if he ever comes near me again. Sammy grinned. You came to the right place, Jake. Come show this lady how to throw a punch. I walked over. She looked at me and something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. We'd both been through the fire and come out harder. I'm Jake, I said, holding out my hand. Sarah, she said, shaking it. Sarah Mitchell. Let's see what you've got, Sarah Mitchell. She had potential. Raw, untrained, but determined. I spent an hour teaching her basic stance, how to throw a jab, how to protect herself. When we finished, she was sweating and smiling. Same time next week? She asked. If you can handle it. I can handle anything, she said. I survived my marriage. Boxing's easy compared to that. I laughed. I know exactly what you mean. She left. Sammy sidled up next to me. She's cute, he said. She's a client. She's single and you're single, and you both have the same taste in ex-spouses. I'm just saying. You're always just saying, and I'm always right. Think about it, kid. You spent 6 months getting revenge. Maybe it's time to start getting happy. I watched Sarah drive away through the gym's grimy windows. Thought about Nina and Derek and all the energy I'd spent destroying them. Thought about the satisfaction of winning, the hollow victory of revenge. Maybe Sammy was right. Maybe it was time to move forward instead of looking back. Or maybe I'd spend one more week enjoying the fact that Nina Chen was living in a studio apartment in Tampa, working as a receptionist, and wondering how her perfect plan had gone so wrong. Yeah, one more week sounded good. The final confrontation happened on a Tuesday. I was closing up the garage when a car pulled into the lot. Expensive car, new model, the kind that screamed, I'm successful, and I want you to know it. The driver got out. It took me a moment to recognize him. Derek. He looked different. Better clothes, better haircut, like he'd somehow landed on his feet again. But his eyes were the same. Calculating, manipulative, fake. Jake, he said, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I think we do. See, I've been rebuilding my life. New city, new business, new clients. And I've been thinking about what happened between us. Good for you. Now get off my property. I'm here to make you an offer. I don't want anything from you. $20,000, cash, to sign a non-disclosure agreement about what happened, about the testimony I gave, about Nina. I stared at him. You want to pay me to keep quiet about the fact that you're a lying con artist? I want to pay you to let me move on with my life without my past following me around. Your past is following you around because you're an unpleasant person, Derek. That's not something you can pay to make disappear. Everyone has a price, Jake. Not me. His expression hardened. I'm trying to be reasonable here, and I'm trying to get you off my property before I call the cops. You're making a mistake. I've made a lot of mistakes. Not taking your money isn't one of them. He stood there for a long moment, then got back in his car. Before driving away, he rolled down the window. You could have been rich, he said. I am rich, I replied. I've got my business, my brother, my friends, and my self-respect. That's more than you'll ever have. He drove away. I watched his taillights disappear into the night. Ray came out of the garage. Who was that? Nobody important, I said. You turned down money? I turned down blood money. There's a difference. You're a better man than me, little brother. No, I'm not. I'm just done letting people like him think they can buy their way out of consequences. We locked up the garage and went to Mulligan's for a beer. Sarah was there, sitting at the bar, and when she saw me, she smiled. I smiled back. Maybe Sammy was right. Maybe it was time to stop looking back and start looking forward. But first, one more beer, one more night of savoring the victory. Tomorrow, I'd think about the future. Tonight, I'd enjoy the present. Nina was in Florida, broke and alone. Derek was running from his past. And I was exactly where I wanted to be, in my city, in my bar, with my people. Freedom wasn't free. Nina had learned that the hard way. But for me, freedom was worth every penny I'd paid, every bridge I'd burned, every friendship I'd lost. I raised my glass to Ray and Sammy and Sarah. To freedom, I said. To revenge, Ray added. To moving on, Sammy said. Sarah looked at us, confused but smiling. To whatever the hell you guys are talking about. We drank, and for the first time in a year, I felt something I hadn't felt since before Nina asked for her freedom. I felt happy. Not the hollow happiness of revenge, not the bitter satisfaction of watching enemies fall, just happy. The kind of happiness that comes from knowing you survived the worst and came out stronger. The kind that comes from standing in your own garage, running your own business, living your own life on your own terms. Nina had wanted freedom. She'd paid for it with everything she had. I'd wanted justice. I'd gotten it, and more. Now I wanted something different. I wanted peace. And looking around Mulligan's, at Ray laughing with the bartender, at Sammy telling another war story, at Sarah smiling at me over her beer, I realized I'd found it. The war was over. I'd won. And now, finally, I could rest.